What's going on, guys? Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well. And in today's video, we have our 1,000 subscriber special here with a fan fiction here on how I would go about fixing the sequels. We all know it, and it's a very talked about thing here in the Star Wars community. Some people say the sequels are okay, some of them say they're good, and some of them say that they're just god awful. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into this video. How would I personally go about fixing the sequels here to make them better, make them connect to the other movies in a better way, more or less, because in my own thoughts and opinions, I really don't think it's a bad trilogy altogether. It's just the whole matter of a fact that it doesn't really connect to the other movies all that much, or at least not very well, especially when we're talking about the prequel era. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into it and how I would go about fixing these movies. It's no secret. There's no way that Disney's just going to come out and say, hey, these movies are no longer canon. They're now a part of Legends. It's just not going to happen ever, because it's one of the last times we're ever going to see the big trio of Han, Luke, and Leia, not necessarily all together, but at least in the same trilogy of movies. So for starters, just leaving these three original movies, I guess, left alone for as of right now is one thing I'm going to do, is because there's nothing we can really do to go back and change these movies if they're going to be staying canon in this whole fan fiction video here that we have going. So with that, much rather than starting with The Force Awakens, Episode 7, we're going to go all the way over to Episode 9, and after the fact of Episode 9, and get something out of the way that just needs to happen, whether it's done in a movie, or more or less, particularly, I think would do better, is a TV show. And something that I'm not really going to talk about all that much in this video is that whole build-up to the sequel era here with the First Order era here as well, because that's something that Lucasfilm and Disney with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are already doing and already kind of quote-unquote fixing with the Mandalorian show, the Book of Boba Fett, and the Ahsoka show, and more or less more to come in the future. Now, like I said, whether it's done in a movie or TV series, I think it would do better in a TV series, just basing on how other Star Wars shows and series have kind of gone, from the Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, from those animated shows all the way to the live action shows of The Mandalorian. They've all just performed very, very well, especially now with Star Wars Rebels kind of starting to really pick up here, with a lot of fans actually taking the time to sit down and actually watch it and give it an actual understandable rating, rather than just saying it's a kid's show and it's bad because of its animation. So with that would be the first thing to do, is to make some sort of TV show based after the events of Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, and maybe even before then have that same show actually have a Season 1 and a Season 2 that takes place between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, that really goes more in depth and shows us what the Resistance is doing by going on these different missions, the buildup of the Battle of Exegol there with Palpatine and his army, more or less, and actually showing us how Rey is able to get that Jedi training there from her master Leia Organa, or Leia Skywalker. After that, we'd move on to the whole buildup of events here that we see in The Rise of Skywalker. That whole movie would of course happen, nothing would really go all that different, because we're not really changing any of the actual movies. Those are canon and those are just how they are. It's kind of like the same rules applied to the prequel era. When those movies first came out, not many people were huge fans of them. They just didn't like it, whether it was the bad dialogue, maybe it was the acting, or just the overall storyline, and not many fans were really too, I guess, hyped over the whole prequel era when it first came out. But looking at it now, many fans are huge, massive fans for the prequel era. So essentially, by implying some sort of show taking place between Episode 8 and Episode 9, and then furthermore after the events of Episode 9, we're pretty much doing the same thing that happened with the prequel era, is by giving it some sort of show to build up better towards those events of what we saw in Episode 3, which in that case, it would be the Clone Wars. In this case, it would be some other show, whether that's animated or live action. I feel like, of course, it would be way more difficult to do it live action, and it would be feeling more limited at that, with different characters appearing here and there, so it would probably be better off doing an animated style, also seeing that we could very well get more seasons out of that as well. Moving on to after the whole events of Episode 9 and what went on there and what happened there, of course, after having about 1 or 2 seasons there taking place between Episode 8 and Episode 9, really giving us that full build-up there with all those different training for Rey, the build-up there for actual, I guess, Palpatine there actually building up his army there and actually appearing there, and maybe even some sort of conflict happening with Kylo Ren as well there. This would also get us to understand better on what's going on with comics as well. They could very well imply comics and books there, because there are many books and comics that take place between these different movies, more in particular between The Force Awakens there and all three movies there. More or less though, what I'm trying to get at though is that it would give us more content there based around the Knights of Ren if we were to touch on some, I guess, points there for Kylo Ren, as many fans do think they were kind of quote-unquote wasted there. I really do think that they were wasted, and bringing me to my next point here for this video is bringing on that whole point of having Finn actually get his Jedi training. Now this would take place after the events of episode 9, of course, as we would then actually get his whole training scenes there. Whether it would be done by Rey, more or less, I think would be done by Rey, because just thinking about it, there's no one really out there left to give him any training other than Rey. Now, that does also take into consideration and the fact of Ahsoka Tano. Now, as we did see in The Rise of Skywalker, when Rey was building up the courage to really take on Palpatine and get up and really defeat him, we heard many Jedi voices, including Ahsoka Tano. And now we also know that Dave Filoni, who is the creator of Ahsoka Tano, never said that she's actually dead or alive for this scene, so we can imply here that she's actually alive during the events of the sequel era here. Of course, it would make her pretty dang old, so we really wouldn't see too much action with her, but that also brings her into the whole concept and idea of having her give some more training to Rey and Finn, both of them, and then furthermore, maybe have her pass away in some sort of way, and then, I guess, more or less implied the whole fact of having Rey train Finn even more from all of the knowledge that she was able to get from Luke Skywalker, the textbooks, and even Leia Organa as well. So with that, the rest of things really start to get confusing and start to really pick up here more or less. So I really want to take my time with it, and we're going to touch on a little bit of it, and I really do want to split this video up into 2 parts. So to kind of get it kind of started here for a part 2, ending with part 1 of this video, where things start to kind of get fuzzy and kind of confusing here more or less, where we're really going to have to take our time and really think things out here more or less, because after that whole training scene there, or training that we get here with Finn and Rey, is something I think we could see here for many seasons of the show, whether it's training and then them going on different missions for the Resistance to gather intel for the First Order and the Sith Order on Exegol as well, rather than just having Poe Dameron come out and say somehow Palpatine's returned, because that's just a really bad line, to be completely honest, just to say somehow Palpatine's returned. There has to be some sort of build up that the Resistance does know about Palpatine's return, but for whatever reason they need to keep this pretty much a secret here until it really does become a bigger, larger threat, and this of course is to avoid a huge galactic panic there. So in those terms, that's how I would fix that whole concept and idea as well for the movies. Now, like I had said, moving on to after the whole events of The Rise of Skywalker Episode 9, we do get some training scenes there with Rey and Finn, and even Ahsoka Tano being brought back as well. I think would be really awesome and fix a lot of things as well to really better connect the whole idea between the prequel era and the sequel era there. So with that, like I had mentioned, having another 3 seasons taking place after The Rise of Skywalker, some sort of animated show is my guess there, kind of like the Clone Wars and even Star Wars Rebels, to really better connect those time gaps there, because there is definitely some sort of time gap there that needs to be covered and has a lot of build up and potential there for storytelling and what we could see. Now, like I had mentioned, I really want to split this video up into 2 parts, so hit that subscribe button and that notification bell if you haven't already. Stay tuned for part 2, because I'm definitely going to have a part 2 here, continuing on for what we could possibly see here for a 10th Star Wars movie that would really just bring it home and bring it all together. I'm really excited to get started on that video as well, so stay tuned for that, guys. This whole video and this whole fan fiction here really is for you guys. Thank you guys all so much for all the love and support here, both on our YouTube and our Instagram. This video, of course, is our 1,000 subscriber special, so thank you guys so much for all the different, I guess, love and support here on our YouTube and our Instagram with all these new subscribers here. It means the world to me, means a lot to me. Thank you guys so much. Hit that like button if you haven't already, as it really does help with the channel, and check out our Instagram, Unofficial Star Wars, for more Star Wars related content. Catch you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.